All right, let's go to Scott Grayson's grades. I got to imagine that the report card was a interesting one to put together. It was a win that felt like a loss and then had all sorts of distractions around it. And Grayson's grades are brought to you by GMS Law. Make the right call with 4 convenient locations to serve you online at gmslaw.com. All right, Scott Grayson, it was a win, but how would you grade the win?
It was not clean, that's for sure. I think there was, I think sometimes we do get a little spoiled and think that that this team should be, blowing teams out or things like that. And at the end of the day, and guys who played in the league will say, winning in this league is hard. Any win you take, you get that you take when you can get it. And I think yesterday I walked away from that game just feeling like it was flat. I think here's where the problem comes. And I was there, and I heard the boos coming. I heard even some of the fire Nick chants coming outside of the press box around halftime that were out there. These fans are tired of seeing this team, and it dates back to last year, start games slow. They're tired of seeing them not score in the first period, the first quarter, or until sometime in the second quarter, or sometimes not even in the first half. And I think they're just getting tired of seeing what's been put together, how talented this offense is supposed to be, and they're just not producing. And I think when you see some of that, it gets really frustrating. And that's where I think that was directed yesterday. And I think that's where this team, and the fans are sitting here going, hey, this was the Browns. And you got.
We lost Scott there. Looks like we have a connection issue here. We'll get back to him in just a second. But his commentary is similar to what we just talked about with Nick and the Nuggets, which is this is the Browns. The fans are not impressed with the style of victory based on the opponent. I will say, this Browns team did go to the playoffs last year. They won 11 games last year.
With
they
Joe
went to
Flacco,
the playoffs.
by the way.
And they are a disappointing team this year. But are they a disappointing team or are they a bad team? And I think the fans look at their record, 1-5, and say, this is a bad football team. And they're not wrong about this. I don't think this Cleveland team is miraculously going to turn it around. But one thing that we have to separate sometimes is because they're a bad team doesn't mean they have a bad defense. They do have a good defense. They're a good defensive team, and their offense stinks. And that played out yesterday. You had trouble moving the football, your offense against a good defense, and your defense had a hard time against – your defense looked good against their inept offense. So it was a tough game to get a read on in the end, right? It's a tough game.
Especially coming out of a bye. That's my whole thing is you come out off a bye, and that's what you look like. The same team going into the bye.
All right, let's bring Scott back into the conversation for Grayson's grades here. Yeah, we lost you there. You were talking about the quality of opponent and not matching up with the quality of victory, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. I think that, like I said before I lost you, I think the bottom line is these fans are tired of seeing this team come out kind of flat and slow. And I think then you couple that with the behavior of the head coach during it, and it's you come out of this going, I know you want to say you won the game. What more do you want? Well, this team just needs to play better. This defense was tied for last in the league in takeaways coming in. And then this offense has been turning it over every week. This was fine. They finally had a game where they had no turnovers as an offense, but you had a blocked kick returned for a touchdown. That's a problem. And so there's issues here that I think coming out of it people see and say, well, this was the Browns. What are you going to do against good teams?
And that's the way fans think, right? Now, Sirianni's message after the game is, look, it's really hard to win in this league, no matter who the opponent is. And sometimes as fans, we have a hard time with that. We look at a team 1-5 and just say, they stink. The game should not be close. It should not be an equal game. And then Nick's saying, look, it's hard to win in this league. So there is somewhere in between with the quality of victory that I think the team says, we don't care how ugly it looks. We got to win in the NFL. And the fans look at it and say, yeah, but you know what? We saw you go 10-1 last year. We're not seeing any growth. We're not seeing anything that looks different or look better than what we saw a year ago. I think that's where the big problem is starting here is people are starting to not believe that this team has championship capabilities.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head, Mike. They're looking at it and they're going, this is 5 games in now. And you look at, okay, the losses. Well, The one in Tampa, fine. You want to rip it up and throw it out because the Eagles were missing 3 offensive starters. You know what? I wouldn't complain with you. I would just say, well, the defense played awful in that game, and they were fine. But the Atlanta game, that one they shouldn't have lost. That was a coaching mistake. A player dropped the ball as well. Bad calls in it. And you look at what this team is. You go, this is where I say there's similarities to last year. What is the identity of this team right now? And I don't think you can put a finger on it. And that, to me, 5 games in is a little bit of a problem. What I'll tell you is they're a team that starts the game slow. They can't jump on top of anybody and bury them. And they're a team that just seems to let everybody stay right in the game with them up until the very end. And sometimes you can lose that way. They won yesterday, but it won't always be that way.
You gave a D to Nick Sirianni. Is that more for his post-game antics, or is that more for in-game coaching?
I did that because first of all, I saw and heard him say he called some plays on offense. He called a play on defense, and I'm scratching my head going, again, where's the guy who's supposed to be a CEO overseeing this team and just kind of staying in his lane? And calling a play on defense is new. I don't know why he's doing that. But yeah, the antics afterwards as well, that really bothered me. Listen, these people pay a lot of money to go to these games. The tickets prices these days is astronomical. And all they're asking for you to do is to put a good product on the field, do your job. And when this team just goes out there and is flat early in games, I can't fault fans who may want to let them know that. And I just can't see where, if he's worried about that at the end of the game, that means it's bothering him during the game. And a lot of these guys, you have to have your blinders on. You got to stay locked in. That tells me he's not locked in. So there's things there that I think Nick really needs to kind of put himself through and kind of get through and come out the other side and be. Look, I think he can be a good head coach. I really do. But I think he's dabbling in too many other things when he's supposed to be just staying on course with what's best for his team.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the second best winning percentage among all active head coaches and the 15th best winning coach of all time. I mean, so people act like this guy is inept or that he's a clown or that he's incapable, but he does have a track record of success as the head coach. Now, that being said, the results recently, as we keep talking about, whether it's, hey, I'm not all that impressed because Cleveland's not all that good, or the way the last season ended, I think is clouding a lot of the judgment of Nick. But I'll ask you, Scott, you just said it really bothered you yesterday. Do you think that is a fireable offense, the way that he acted yesterday to the fan base, by basically saying, hey, 99 now, we won the game, now what do you have to say?
Is that what he said?
I don't know what he said, but I said this yesterday, Scott, which is, if that's what he was basically doing yesterday, if he was basically saying, I don't hear any fire Nick now stuff, to me, that is so immature that if I'm the owner, I have to say, do I have the right guy in place? Because I was wondering if he was, in fact, going over to the crowd and thanking them, because he did make reference after the game. Hey, they were a big part of forcing them to go off sides. So I was wondering if that was what he was doing after the game. Hey, thanks, guys. Like, get it up. No, if you watch, let's saying get it up, he was going like this to him, kind of, saying, thanks, I don't hear anything from you now.
Yeah, here's where I said, is that a fireable offense, to answer your question? To me, it's something I put in the file. And then when I want to pull it out later and I want to run down a list of grievances, it's something I would point out. No, I'm not firing him today because of that. Jeffrey Lurie wants this team in the playoffs. He wants to win a division title. He wants to make a run at a Super Bowl title. I think they still have the pieces here that could do all of that. I'm not necessarily saying that right now I believe they will. So you look at it and if you say, if I fire my head coach right now, you're no better than the Jets. And you're sitting here looking without a head coach, and you're trying to piece this season together the rest of the way. They made a coaching change in the middle of the season last year at a coordinator position. That did not work out well at all. So I think you have to look at this, and it's just one of those things that you put in the file and you say, okay, if I don't see any improvement from this, now does that mean that if I'm Jeffrey Lurie, do I call him into the office and just tell him, That's a bad look, and I don't want that for my football team. No, I wouldn't hesitate to do that. And I got to tell you the other thing, Mike, I'm kind of getting tired of. I'm tired of the kids up at the podium for a post-game press conference. Um, you know, the honeymoon period's over, man. You're a head coach. You're coming in. It's a post-mortem. It was a win, yes. It's a win, and a win's a win. And do you celebrate a win? Sure, you want to celebrate a win. But it's also your workplace. It's your office where you're going to hear questions from the media. And you've got your kids sitting up there on the podium with, it's great, man. It's a family. You got your family with you. I think that's great. Have them at the stadium. Have them right there when you walk off. Have them standing off to the side. But I think to me, it was almost like he was bringing them up to help, prevent some of those questions or harder questions thrown his way. At the end of the day, these guys are human beings. I get it. I'm sure his family hears the criticism that people are launching about him. And I think that's partly what bothers him.
And I will add this, Scott, the whole thing with the deflection, then you have your kids there, and you're cursing in front of them multiple times. I mean, what kind of message is that you got the kids can't be older than 10, 11 years old, and you're out there, multiple expletives coming out in that press conference.
Yeah, there was so many things there that just raised flags for me. I guess that's the way I'll put it. So to put it, to kind of go back to what you asked, is it a fireable offense? No, but I think it's conversation worthy behind closed doors there at the facility. And I don't, we'll never know if that happened, perhaps. But it's stuff where it's funny because he's such a fiery individual. It is who he is. When he said about what's the identity of this team, what's the identity of that man? That man is a fiery guy. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. Everybody could admit that. But you have to find this gray area where you can operate as that fiery individual to motivate your team, but not turn on your own fan base. And that's where I think he's got to find the happy medium of a place to live, is where he can be a fiery guy on the sidelines that his players may like and respect. He was jawing with one of the Browns yesterday, Newsome, early in the game on the sidelines a little bit. Maybe that's part of where you can live a little bit. I mean, I don't know the players necessarily want their head coach yelling at other players, but he's got to find an area where he can be emotional, where he can live as a fiery guy. But you can't turn your own fan base. You can't swear in front of your kids. And frankly, like I said, have them in the room if you really want to. That's fine. I just don't think, unless you're at winning an NFC championship game and you're celebrating that post-game press conference, fine. But a regular season game, they don't belong up on the podium with him. That's for him as head coach.
Yeah, and I think, your point about winning the NFC championship game, you're not really getting tough questions up there. That's more of a celebration. And I think that's just where the disconnect comes in a lot of times. The fans, again, look at a win over Cleveland 20-16, not very impressive. The NFL coach is saying, man, it's hard to win in this league, and we did it. And you're not impressed by that, and I think that's where that disconnect kind of hit in that moment yesterday. But again, it goes to a lot of things. Jalen Carter on the sideline in New Orleans. Why does he feel he can go and start mouthing off to the fans? Well, my head coach does it, and it's okay there. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing moves forward. Do you think, Scott Grayson, you were there yesterday, do you think that the players, there was a lot of talk about, and Nick said it, and Brandon Graham said it, and a lot of the players saying, we need Nick to get back to that guy in 2022. Did they want him to have that personality? Is that the guy that they want to kind of back?
I think they do enjoy a fun Nick, okay? And that's what I'm saying. He's got to find that gray area where Nick can have fun and be himself. Because I think we could all agree he hasn't quite been that guy through the beginning part of this season. Now, I think some of them wanted him to kind of calm it down a little bit, and now he's kind of gone too far to the one way that I think they're saying, listen, we need some energy around here, and we need you to help us get there. We need you to bring it. That's fine. I think at the end of the day, any players who may have felt that way don't want to see that, though. Like, they know you can't turn on your own fans. And hey, look what I did. No, you want to get, look, you got the Giants this week. You want to stand up your podium and you want to be fiery and talk about how, we don't like the Giants this week. You know what? That's fine. I think fans would love that. I think players would maybe to a certain extent enjoy that. Oh, we're bringing Saquon back to New York. Like, okay, rally around that. Have fun with that. Don't get negative on your own fans. And so, I think he's got to find some of that energy again and some of that fun. But he's got, you can't be going into the tunnel in Indianapolis yelling at the Colts fans. In fact, just leave the fans out of it, man. Bring your energy and your fire and direct it towards the opponent. I think if you do that, these players will follow that.
Grayson's grades are posted after every Eagles game at 97.3ESPN.com. What was the mood in that locker room yesterday? Was this a team that feels like they are excited about where this team is? I mean, they got everybody back. They're starting to get healthy. Of course, they lost Mailata. That's going to be a problem with Fred Johnson. I'm interested to see what happens if Fred Johnson is the guy. He was asked about that today. Will Mailata go play? Not Mailata. Becton go play left tackle and Steen go to guard, how that's all going to play out. But what is the mood in that locker room after a win like that yesterday?
Yeah, it was a frustrated locker room from the standpoint of they were getting the questions about slow starts. The guys on offense were getting that. And there was a frustrated group of guys there that said they've got to figure it out. They're pressing a little bit. And, they heard the boos. And so it wasn't it wasn't an excited locker room. Let's put it that way. I think guys on defense were pretty pleased. And I thought they had every right to be. They only gave up 9 points, when you take the blocked field goal out of there. That wasn't on the defense. So I think defensive guys, if you look at where they were before the bye, missed tackles, an egregious performance against Tampa, and then they come in, 5 sacks. They gave up only 9 points to the Browns offense. I think you look at that and you say, if you're a defense, you're going, that's good. Like, we're good with that. So I got the sense that I felt from the defensive guys, they were celebrating Brandon Graham's 200th game played. They were happy to have put on the performance they did defensively in that way. Offensive guys were definitely not jumping around rah rah rah. Not hey, it's hard to win in this league and we just won a game. No, they know they've got to play better. They know that they've got to do better as a unit. I didn't get the sense Saquon was satisfied yesterday talking to him. Lane Johnson, certainly worried about Jordan Mailata, but also concerned about the slow starts. Like, this offense knows they should be going out there and setting the tone, and they're not doing it right now.
I wanted to get your take on that because you gave Saquon a C. Why this offense, in the words of Lane Johnson, looked constipated yesterday. They had a couple big plays. I mean, I would love, Scott, to see them run more underneath crossing routes. I mean, get the ball into your playmakers' hands. Nobody can tackle in this league. Let these corners and safeties try to tackle A.J. Brown. I guarantee 9 times out of 10, you're not getting them down on the first opportunity. A 6-yard play turns into a 10, 15, 20. You saw the touchdown that Smith had. It's because no communication in the secondary. He catches that across the middle and then shoots up the field. More crossing routes, more getting the balls to your playmakers. It seems this offense so predicated on Jalen Hurts having to make a perfect throw down the field and letting his receivers go up and make a play. How about letting the receivers make a play underneath?
Well, like I said before, what's the identity? I have not seen a game where they come out and say, this is what we're going to establish today, and then we're going to feed off of that. And I think that's part of the reason they have the slow starts. You have Saquon who's averaging, however many yards he is per attempt this season. I guarantee you it's above the league average. It's one of the highest probably. And I say, why are you not giving that guy the ball? When you have a slow start problem, that means you're having problems getting a first down, let alone scoring. Like, you can't get first downs first and then try to worry about. Why are you not giving a guy like Saquon the ball 2 out of the first 3 plays? And they're not. And then why I agree with you about the receivers. I like, they saw what crossing routes can do. Devontae Smith can roast a guy over the middle and come out the other side. And you got to have time to make that play and let it develop, sure. But he can definitely excel in that role. And A.J. Brown will fight you for the ball. I agree with you. He will catch a ball 6 yards away and take it 20 yards. Yes, let those things happen. But I have been waiting for them to establish the run in the first quarter, make a team commit to stopping it, which is probably leading to man-to-man coverage on the outside somewhere, and just let those guys eat. And there isn't that logical progression within a game that we're seeing. Is that Kellen Moore? Is that Nick Sirianni? Is it Jalen Hurts changing the play at the line? One thing I did see yesterday, Mike, more than I have seen in a while, was designed run plays by Jalen Hurts. We said last time I talked to you, I believe, if you look at Jalen Hurts now versus Jalen Hurts in 2022, he ran a lot more in 22. Yesterday, there was a little bit of a commitment to getting Jalen to run. I don't know if that's something we'll continue to see or if it was a one-time thing.
Yeah, there was a couple of called plays where he followed Saquon up the left side. He ran one to the right side later on in the game.
They
there
ran
was
an option.
Yep, there was an option play that kind of sealed the deal late in the game there. That play that they converted to seal the game. Not a play that you would love to see called. Why are you throwing a ball down the field when the other team has no timeouts left and the clock is running?
Brown. AJ said that play was not the original play call. And then I'm going, okay, well, so they didn't learn from Seattle because it looked to me that was the Seattle play, right, that turned into an interception last year. That they went rogue on.
Yeah.
It's I agree with you. Like, yeah, great. It's a flashy play. It's a great catch. It's not the right play call in that moment.
Real quick, you've been around this team for years. Does this offense look different? Does it look like a different offense from last year's offense that really struggled? Does this look like, hey, Kellen Moore has come in with some innovative play design, play call? Doesn't seem like a very different-looking offense to me. How about you?
I would say it's different because you have a different guy running the ball who's making some plays. I don't feel like we're looking at a very different playbook. I agree with you. It was all supposed to be all this flashy motion, stuff like that. I'm not seeing a lot of that, of what we were kind of sold as to what we were going to see with this offense. So I agree with you, Mike. I don't see a totally different offense. No, I see it looking a little different because Saquon is able to chug along and move that pile for 5-6 yards sometimes instead of 2, like DeAndre Swift may have last year. So, yeah, I have yet to see the explosive playbook. Now, that being said, this was only the second game where we saw Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown on the field at the same time. So I think there's some stuff we have to kind of maybe some caveats to throw out there as we go on.
Well, I will say this game against the Giants coming up, they have a very good defense, so this is going to be another tough week for the offense here. But we got plenty more grades over at 97.3ESPN.com. Grayson's grades are posted after every Eagles game. We really touched on only about one or two of them. Check out all the grades at 97.3ESPN.com. All right, Scott Grayson, thanks, buddy.
All right, you got it, Mike. Take care.